Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at a really interesting document. It's a letter dated September 16, 2025, to someone called Comrade Sims.
Right. And it lays out some, strategic thinking for a political party dealing with these big societal changes.
Exactly. Now, it definitely comes from a specific viewpoint, but our goal here is just to unpack its arguments. It draws on research from places like McKinsey, the Heritage Foundation, academic work, plus its own internal stuff.
So the question is, what can we learn from how this document sees the world and, what might be coming? What does it mean for you?
Okay, so let's dive in. The letter starts by focusing on the economic pressure folks are under. Rising costs for basics, housing, food, healthcare, while wages maybe aren't keeping up.
Yeah, and what's interesting is how it breaks that down. It suggests this hits different generations differently, like young adults struggling with debt, finding stable work, affording a place.
Makes starting a family feel risky, I imagine the letter implies.
Exactly. And then for people in their 30s, 40s maybe, they've got mortgages, childcare costs, sometimes looking after older parents too, plus job instability. It's a lot.
Hmm.
And the letter connects all this economic strain directly to, well, a big demographic issue,
hmm
the U.S. birth rate. It's been falling since 2007, way below what's needed to, keep the population stable long term.
That's quite a link. And it mentions outside research to back this up, right? From McKinsey and Heritage.
It does. It uses that to highlight the potential long-term effects.
Yeah.
Fewer workers down the road, more strain on support systems for the elderly, maybe slower economic growth, definitely more pressure on social safety nets.
So real systemic consequences potentially.
And it goes further, pointing to what it calls deep human dangers. Things like more isolation, loneliness, weaker family structures, less connection between generations. Stuff you also see discussed in, say, The Atlantic or Nature.
Right.
The core argument in the letter is that under the current system, the cost and just the instability of work actively discourage people from having families.
Okay, so it paints a picture where economics is really reshaping society. But then it shifts to technology, doesn't it?
Mm.
AI, automation, the environment.
Yeah, it really flags how fast AI, automation, and big data are changing the nature of work.
Mm.
But it also brings in the environmental angle.
How so?
It points out that data centers need huge amounts of power and water, often from fossil fuels, which obviously bumps up emissions.
So the question it asks is, how do we manage all this?
Right. The letter suggests not just rejecting technology out of fear, avoiding Luddism, as it puts it. Instead, it calls for public money into clean energy, rules for AI infrastructure, and really trying to minimize those environmental costs.
And jobs. What's the forecast there, according to the letter?
It predicts quite a bit of job loss from automation. Maybe around 30% of U.S. jobs could be fully automated by 2030 based on its analysis.
Wow. And the proposed response?
Well, short term, it pushes for things like shorter work weeks, but without pay cuts. Maybe a universal basic income or some kind of guaranteed minimum livelihood, stronger safety nets, retraining programs.
In longer term.
Longer term, it suggests the idea of public or social ownership of the key industries, the ones controlling AI, robotics, data, power. The idea being to make sure technology serves people, not just profit.
Okay. Switching focus slightly. How does the letter suggest organizations themselves can adapt in maybe using these technologies?
It sees AI as a potential force multiplier, using it for things like drafting content, translation, summarizing information for media work.
Makes sense.
Also for outreach, like identifying potential supporters or analyzing feedback and making communication more personalized. And it highlights using AI to build custom software or databases cheaper, reducing the need for outside help.
Interesting. And does it connect this text of back to the organization's core principles?
Yes, definitely. It stresses having, quote, ideologically strong clubs and districts, grounded in theory, to build solidarity. And it recommends collaboration between generations, younger members trying out tech and sharing what they learn, older members sharing experience and staying open to new ways, keeping everyone involved.
All right, so bringing it all together for you listening, this letter presents a particular viewpoint, arguing that economic stress, tech changes, and population trends are all tangled up, and they directly affect your life, family, community.
Yeah, it identifies what it sees as growing contradictions in the system, rising costs, insecure work, environmental issues pushing people towards, well, despair, according to the letter.
And the final thought?
The letter ends on a pretty strong note. It frames an aging society with fewer births as a serious warning, leading to isolation and weaker families. And from this document's specific perspective, it argues that its socialist-inspired proposals are the only way out.
How does it frame that way out?
By reorganizing society around human need, protecting families, ensuring care, sharing burdens, building strong communities, all presented as the alternative to letting profit motives run things. That's the path the author envisions in this strategic letter to Comrade Sims.
Well, quite a lot to think about there. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into these really fascinating ideas presented in the letter.